Nick Sleep. This is chapter 6. We're going to learn a lot about Nick Sleep and some of the insights from his investment behavior and investment style. And most importantly, we're going to learn about the benefits of delaying instant gratification. So, in his partnership that he built with Zach, Nick Sleep formed the Nomad Investment Partnership, and their returns were stellar. 13 years when they invested in that partnership, they overall returned 921% versus the index, the MSCI index returned 116%. Right? So 921 versus 116, almost like 8 to 9x, right? That's huge. So this is the secret behind quality, in-depth work, and delaying the instant gratification. And he uses that tactic that a lot of companies like Costco and Amazon use to really build that long-term investment and delaying that instant revenue recognition and delaying that for the long-term customer growth and customer benefit. So you're going to learn a lot about Nick Sleep and some of his insights. So let's get into it. So the most important learning was how he was influenced by this book, Zen, The Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert Pirsig. And so he was influenced in a pretty big way. I've not fully read this book yet, but I do intend to after I read this chapter, and how he was influenced by reading this book. This book is all about quality, and constant improvement is what I recognize after reading this chapter. And he says that patience is important. And so when you delay the gratification, and when companies delay the instant gratification, and then they have the integrity, and then they work from a longer term horizon, that they are actually going to get better and better outcomes. And so the other insight from the same long term delayed gratification piece is the other aspect of quality that I learned from Nick Sleep is, for everything that you do, there are two ways of doing it. There's an ugly way of doing it, where you're just dragging yourself and just doing it. And there's a high quality way of doing it, where you're like totally engaged, fully present, and you're doing it in such amazing style. You're doing it with great quality. And that's what he does. He does in-depth research. He picks a few companies and he invests in them. And so the key thing that he has also learned during his investments is the real cycle, right? Which he also probably learned from this book, was the real cycle that you're working on improving is the cycle of yourself. And you can do everything with great quality. So, and that's where you get satisfaction and peace. So there's really good insights to learn from Nick Sleep in terms of how he mastered his own investment behavior, but he also used that to find out which companies are really playing for the long term, playing the quality game. And he's done like phenomenal research, finding out those rare few gems. And then when he finds them out, he actually goes deep, and he goes big time in terms of percentage allocation. So Zen and Art of Motorcycle Maintenance was a key one. Quality, Art of Delaying Instant Gratification, was a key insight from Nick Sleep, right? And there are 6 questions that Nick Sleep asks for every investment ideas. And what are those 6 questions? Number 1, what is the intended destination for this business 10 to 20 years out? This is a very hard question, in this VUCA world where a lot of things are changing, customer behavior is changing, disruptions rampant. How do you think of a business and its model for like 10, 20 years out, right? But he really wants to go after those companies that are thinking that long term. And so that's the first question. Don't look at where the company is today. Imagine 10 years out, 20 years out, where will this company be? That will already put you in the right mindset of finding out which companies fit the bar, which companies don't. So you will eliminate a lot of companies where you can't really say in 10 years the revenue is going to be 10 times. If not, your stock price is not going to be 10 times. So 10, 20 years out, if you can think of companies that are investing for that longer run, then that's a good quality business. And for that, destination to be reached, what actions are the management of that company, the CEO, the board, what are they doing to increase the probability that they'll actually reach their valuation in 10 years from now, or the destination where they should be reaching? Are they doing the right things? And then what are the actions that can prevent this company to reach that destination? So start with the destination, see the history of actions done by the company to reach that destination, and see what are the other competitive landscape changes that can change for that valuation to be not reached. So that's 3 questions, but there are 3 more. What are the other 3 questions? Is the company actually strengthening its relationship with its customer? Think about it. Does the customer really like the company, or is it forced, or are the customers forced to buy the product because it's, for whatever reason, cheap, but the customer hates the company? There are many companies you can think right now. Pause for a moment, think. There might be certain products that you use, that you're compelled to use, but if given a better choice, you would stop working using that company's products. There are many companies that will come to your mind. And that will not happen if the company is strengthening its relationship of trust or giving you better quality. And if the company is doing that, then that relationship of trust is being built. So which companies are eroding trust and which companies are building trust? And then finally, is the CEO allocating capital in a rational way to enhance the company's long-term probability of reaching that destination? Right? So you can do that by looking at financial statements, find out how are their metrics, return on capital, return on the yield, how is the company's profitability increasing or decreasing, right? You can actually find out if newer projects are actually better and they are able to reinvest in themselves. And finally, to reach that goal, if you were to really think long term, you have to think about your employees, not just your customers. Is the company treating its employees well, or not paying them well? In case of Costco, they were the first large retailer, wholesale retailer, who paid their employees almost 2x the minimum wage. From what I can remember, it was $9 minimum wage, and they used to pay at least $18 long time ago, and it's probably gone up now since the time I last checked. So they're paying a huge premium because they know that for them it's better off to retain and train high quality individuals than to constantly figure out how to maintain the churn, how to deal with the churn, how to keep re-educating your employees. They understand that's not the right use of money, so they actually pay up, and they end up not even using that money for marketing anymore, because they don't have to market their company and their brand, because people know this is a good company. So they keep people if you treat your employees well. And then finally, there are multiple stakeholders, right? The customer is the biggest stakeholder, employees is another big one, and your suppliers. Is the company actually treating their suppliers well? And if you treat your suppliers well, there'll be times when you might need them. You might need your supplier to be on your side when you're going through a distress. And Whole Foods is a really good example. When the first store opened for Whole Foods, it was in Austin, I believe, and when they were destroyed, that store was destroyed because of flooding, the suppliers and the ecosystem came together to rebuild that store. They didn't have any money to rebuild it. And when they rebuilt that store, and now we know it was like a huge chain across the United States, bought by Amazon. So supplier, stakeholder capital, and treating your suppliers well, treating your customers well will help you stay in the game, but also stay in for the long run. The suppliers would want to work with that company instead of being constantly squeezed by the company. So is the company treating their stakeholders well, right? And so not short-sighted, but helping everyone get better, right? So these are the 6 questions Nick Sleep asks, and these are all like very hard questions, right? For a lot of this, you have to understand valuation, you have to understand capital allocation, you have to understand projects, you have to understand and survey people, employees, you have to look at the churn. But this is the quality of depth that Nick Sleep will go into to find out, is this the right company? And so what he does, his strategy is to buy few but intensely researched stocks. And he believes that you want to build your portfolio that's built on the foundation of rocks versus the foundation of sand. Similar to if you were to build your house on the foundation of a rock versus the foundation of a sand. So you want something that has higher permanence, right? And that's his long-term way of thinking. But the cost of this is instant gratification. You will not get instant gratification. You will not have your revenues turn into like overall profitability in the earlier phase. You'll actually, for you to treat your stakeholders well, it'll take longer time. So the two big investments that he's done is in Costco and Amazon, right? And he came up with this new business model, which is called scale economies shared. By this, it means the terms together feel complex, but it's not that difficult. It's basically saying when the companies scales up, like Costco and Amazon, the revenues grow up, so they start scaling up. So when they start scaling up, they have a better bargaining power, like Costco and Amazon, and even Walmart for that matter. They can actually have a bargaining power with everyone. And so their costs will go down. They can demand lower prices, so their costs will go down. And so when their costs go down, the two options the company has: pass that cost benefit to the customer. In Costco's case, you can be guaranteed that anything that's on the shelf is no more than 14% marked up than the actual price that the company, Costco, paid for the products. That's huge. Now you automatically build trust that, hey, I'm not getting oversold, and then the quality is good. So when that benefit is passed down to the customer now automatically builds trust in you and your products and will come back to you. And you keep doing this over a long period of time. You build a large scale of memberships, like Costco has built membership. You have to pay $60 to $120 based on your level of membership every year, and they make a lot of money from that. Amazon, likewise, Amazon Prime, you pay like $60 to $120 based on the membership price per year, and you get a lot of benefits, where the company passes those benefits down to the customers. So the customer loyalty is huge. It's huge. And same is used by Berkshire Hathaway. So that comes at giving away in the short term could be 5 to 10 years profits, but in the long term, your shelf life or your profitability of the company goes up significantly. So that is Snyk Sleep, really high quality, high shelf life businesses that invests in their stakeholders and constantly gets better and better over time, so that the customers keep around and the company does well. In the long term, the shareholders also do well because the company does well. Thanks.